I want to try on a comparison I made last night that I think is amazingly perfect. If I can toot my own horn.
Okay.
The Sabres are the Bengals this year. This year's Sabres are this year's Bengals.
In that, why? Because they're the team you don't want to play in the playoffs.
They're the
freakishly make it.
Amazingly good offensive team that got hot late is not going to make it. And if they did, the team that played them would have to be a little bit worried about, we're going to watch out. These guys can hit on anybody. They're having the same season. Why'd the Bengals miss the playoffs? A terrible start. Why are the Sabres going to miss the playoffs? A terrible middle. One stretch.
Yeah.
This year's Bengals. Star power, Burrow and Chase. I mean, Dahlin and Thompson probably don't quite rate like that. It's not the same. But you have two unbelievable players and a couple other nice pieces, and then maybe some stuff I could get better at. But they're the Bengals.
The ownership stuff might be a good comparison, like the questions about what their problems are.
Just 1 year. We're not looking at franchises. The 1 year. This year's Sabres are this year's Bengals.
Yeah, I don't mind it. The difference, I think, would be that I bet the way a Bills fan thought of the Bengals before the wild card round, going into Week 18, didn't the Bengals have like an 8% chance?
Well,
they were alive, but not likely to make it.
But the point you're about to make is about to include other years because Bills fans have baggage about the Bengals. That's why you're afraid of the Bengals. Baggage. They beat you.
Then don't even make it the Bills. Make it anybody in the playoffs.
The Chiefs? Baggage.
Yeah, okay. What about Houston, for instance? Or did Baltimore won the division? Baltimore playing against Cincinnati. They had beat them twice earlier in the year, but they were both really close games.
Right.
Anybody would have looked at the Bengals and Burrow, and part of this is because they've won before and they've made it to the Super Bowl.
Right. That's a big part of it.
And their respect factor for that would have been, that's the team I want no part of in the first round. I don't think that's limited to the Bills. And would any single team or fan base that's in the Eastern Conference playoffs tell you that they would be worried at all about the Sabres if they were in the playoffs? If they had been 6 points closer when this streak started and they squeaked in over Montreal, would anybody tell you they'd be more afraid of the Sabres than Montreal? Montreal's got those. Cole Caulfield scored 40 goals this year. These other teams have guys of Dahlin and Thompson's Kelb. Lane Hutson's probably going to win the Calder. That dude's already like one of the 10 best defensemen in hockey. So I'm not saying that it's completely wrong. I just don't know that anyone else would view them that way.
You're still including other years, though. I mean, I know it's not a perfect comparison, but why is any of that true of Cincinnati? I mean, I sat here and told Bills fans, don't get so worked up about the Bengals. They stink. They're not that good. Their offense is amazing, but they're not good. They are with their record. It says they are. Any fear of them, no matter who you are, is going to be because, well, they have won in the playoffs, and they have gone to the Super Bowl. And, the Sabres obviously don't have anything close to that. But would any team be afraid of the Sabres? No, of course not. Not at all. Why would they be? But that said, who's the team that made it in instead of the Bengals? It was the Denver Broncos, who got beat by 35 in the opening round game. And the other team that made it in was the Chargers, who did what? Went out right away in the first game. Like, I'm not here to tell you if the Sabres got in, they would beat Washington, who locked up the one spot. They probably wouldn't. But it would be a fun series to watch. Would they win a game?
Well,
would they win two? Would Reimer?
What would they do?
Would Reimer pull on the Yaroslav Halak mask?
Well, he'd definitely start game one, right? He would definitely start game one. If they were in, he would start game one.
Was it Halak? I always make this
Halak
mistake.
from Montreal.
It was right. They were an 8 seed.
Yeah,
and Halak stole that series. And this would be a team, the Sabres. Again, like, I'm not trying to give them too much credit. I promise. But if the Sabres were to get into the postseason, it would be interesting to see if they could still score like this. Because now if you want to make a comparison to the Bills, I've got one. The Bills go to the AFC Championship game and lose, and if you try to tell anyone their offense needs a piece, they'll say, what are you talking about? The offense is amazing. Is that true of the Sabres too? Would this offense, would the attack they have offensively translate to postseason hockey? If they made it. If they made it, would they lose every game 5-3, 5-4? Because they can score and they don't get their saves.
It's a good question because one thing I'm thinking of immediately is the playoffs is when power plays dry up. right?
Right. And their power play's not any good.
Right, advantage Sabres because all their goals are at even strength. Thompson.
Now you're onto something.
I saw yesterday, Thompson has the highest, the highest rate of even strength goals
per 60 since 2007.
Which is like when they started tracking it. Yes. Like he's got one of the best even strength seasons ever. But on the other hand, I don't know what they would look like in a playoff setting, because what would they do when the intensity ramps up by tenfold and you're getting blasted every time you touch the puck, and the physicality of the series goes up by a lot. I'm not saying they would do poorly. I just don't know what it would look like. So I might bet that they would still score because they're so good at even strength. Reminder though, we talked about this the other day. Their advanced numbers are not really there during the stretch when they have been scoring. So this was actually before yesterday's game, but before the 9 games where they'd won 8 of 9, the stretch where they won 8 of 9 just recently before last night. They were number 1 in the NHL in goals in that span. Everything else, they were 23rd in shots, 28th in shot attempts, they were 29th in expected goals for, 17th in power play percentage, so I guess that went up a little bit. But nothing else showed, this is a dominant offensive team, other than they were finishing. And that does count, and that does matter. And the Stars were the guys finishing. I mentioned this the other day. They're not scoring off guys' legs. They're ripping pucks home. Thompson's got highlight reel plays every night. So there should be credit for that. I don't know, though. I'm not so confident that it would just translate immediately to the playoffs if they had found a way to squeak in.
It is
I wish we could find out one of these years.
Right. It is one of the things. And again, they lost last night, so the win streak is over, and whatever. They were out of the playoffs before. It'd be one thing if they lost and that's what knocked them out, even though, again, they were never like more than 1% to make it.
Since the new year.
No. If they got to the playoffs, we got a chance to see it. You know who will get that chance? Ottawa and Montreal. Mm-hmm. They will get the testing of, let's see what you do in the playoffs. Ottawa is likely to play Toronto.
Right now, they would play Toronto, and Tampa's 3 points back of that.
Ottawa's going to get a real, honest-to-goodness playoff series, likely against Toronto, and Montreal's going to get one against Washington.
Right.
They'll get that testing. That's something that, Paul talks about this, or has in years past. The playoffs are a process, and maybe the Sabres are in good shape next year, and maybe we can all convince ourselves that they're going to have a season where they're at least in the race like Detroit was this year, where Detroit's season pretty much ended the same day as the Sabres season, except they went from, maybe 30% to 0% versus 1% to 0%. But the last 2 seasons, Detroit has had races, and they've been in it. The last 2 seasons for Detroit have been like the Sabres season with Levi, where you really were in it until the end and then ultimately faltered. It'd be nice, though.
Last year, they really blew it. They were in a spot like all year, and then they went on that losing streak at the end.
It'd be nice to have that instead, where you're not trying to make it up the whole way, but you are in front and trying to hold on to that spot.
Right.
That's dramatic, and, the idea that you're going to make it is always at least 50%.
That's something that last night's opponent had. Columbus was in a spot for a lot of the year, and they blew it recently. So, the Sabres haven't had that. How many days have they spent in a playoff spot past the new year? Like in the last 5 years. It wasn't much.
It's not many.
I don't know. Did they even get into one at any point during that? I think they did for at least a day, didn't they? Because then the Lyubushkin goal put them in a spot 2 years ago. I feel like I remember that. But
in Tampa?
Yeah.
I don't know. I remember that goal. I definitely don't remember if that put them in a spot.
But it wasn't much, even if they had been in a spot for a couple of days. So, my problem with that comparison, though, overall, is just I don't think the Sabres get that level of respect. I don't know that their stars do.
Thompson and Dahlin?
Yeah, as much as they should. Especially, I was reading Pierre LeBrun yesterday about how the international decisions have kind of changed in the month since the Four Nations tournament. And the number one, he ranked the players that weren't at the Four Nations that should be at the Olympics. And number one he ranked was Tage Thompson.
Yeah.
No surprise, right? Second in the league in goals, and he wasn't. Chris Kreider made Team USA over him. So he's writing about him, though, and I think he talked to Bill Guerin in the piece too, and he did write about one thing that could hold Thompson back that's not even his fault is he's never played in a big game. That's what LeBron wrote.
Yeah, good. I mean, these GMs, right?
Right.
I guess he won't know how to do it.
That's
right.
That's what I mean.
Well,
but how much of that is in the league? Like Thompson, like he's great, but have I ever seen him play a meaningful game? That type of thinking. And I think that's a dumb way to do it, but
It's pretty dumb.
I wonder if, a Capitals fan looks at the Buffalo Sabres and they go, yeah, Thompson's a nice player, but like I've never seen him do it. I've never seen him on national television.
Is this where you tell me that like Sam Lafferty has played in big games?
Right, that's why I'm not here to defend that logic. I think it's ridiculous.
Right. But all due respect to Sam Lafferty, like let me find how many postseason games he has in his career. But that's not surprising. Yeah, Lafferty's been in the playoffs 3 times. Has played in 21 playoff games
for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, Pittsburgh, Toronto, and Vancouver. 11 for Vancouver.
Yeah, and tell me he's a great player.
Well, he's played a big game. He's played deep into the playoffs, at least 2 rounds.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, well, we'll see. The Dahlin move last night, the move and all that good stuff. I mean, Peterka, who's ready to have the Peterka, I don't know about conversation or stress. There was that report. There's what I told you, that it wouldn't surprise me if Peterka is the piece the Sabres move. Mm-hmm. If they're going to be a team that's incredible at scoring but needs help on the blue line, wouldn't, or in goal, if you want to talk about that, wouldn't they think, let's take one piece out of our forward group that is about to make $7 million a year and flip it for something on defense to replace what we hoped Samuelson was going to be? Peterka is what, 7 for 7? Peterka's going to get the Tage contract. He's not as good as Tage, but he's going to get that because the cap's going up, and that's how it's going to work.
Well, he's done about what Tage did by the time Tage got his contract. He's actually done a little more. Thompson signed that deal before his big year. He signed it
38 goals,
38
and 30 assists.
Yeah, so when I mean the big year, I mean like the 47 year.
Yeah.
Right, so he had done nothing for 3 seasons, and then he has that 38 goal season with 68 points. So 68 point season, 38 goals, and he signs that contract. Peterka right now has 68 points this season. But he also did it last year. So, yes, I think absolutely he gets at least the same contract as Tage. I'm kind of I would say I'm stressed about that conversation in the summer because of the smoke that he might not want to stay here long term. Mm-hmm. Like there's smoke about that.
Frank Saravello
even a little bit
reported the term they used at Daily Faceoff was malcontent.
Yeah,
there are a couple of malcontents in Buffalo. I take that for what it's worth.
Right, But for me, I'm at a point where that's happened enough, and there is enough logical sense that any player would, be sick of what's been going on here for years, that I would take any of that seriously. Or at least be thinking about it, that it could be true. And if it is, then, I might want to get ahead of that. I might want to trade him. I don't want to trade him. I would, if I were the Sabres, I would want to sign him to a long-term 7-year contract. But if he doesn't want to do that, then I've got to make a decision on what I want to do. Do I want to make it ugly? Do I want to get him on like a 1-year deal?
I mean, they can't afford to make anything ugly again. It hurt him before. The one thing I'll say about this little stretch here, this little run for the Sabres, if it changes the vibes and makes guys like Peterka, whatever, 7 years for $7 million, more open to, no, you know what, I don't want to leave. I think we do have a good thing going here. I would say that has value. Versus, if they cratered out and finished 31st and lost 9 of their last 12 and everybody's miserable all day, all the time, he goes to his agent at the end of the season like, let's make a move. Let's find me an offer sheet. Let's see what we can do out there. I would say that there's the potential for things to be different with that. We'll see. Peterka scored. A contract awaits him. Quinn. Benson continues to be great with Thompson. That line was great last night. They ultimately lose the game. So, is what it is.
But heading into the offseason, it's the top 2 guys that I'll be watching is Byram and Peterka.
No, I don't think they're going to sign Byram, personally, but we'll see.
Right, and that's he can do the 1-year take you to UFA status thing.
It could very well be that they both move, and it's that Byram leaves, and they move Peterka to find someone to replace Byram.
You do 2 separate hockey trades?
Yeah, a little bit.
You trade Byram for a forward, and then you trade Peterka for a defenseman?
I don't know. Maybe that's a little bold. The Sabres aren't exactly one to make these proactive moves.
They do, it's 2 of them, right? But they have made hockey trades. They've made and this is what we're discussing here, like because you're not trading Peterka for prospects, and you're not trading Byram for picks and prospects. You're you're probably going to want to make 2 hockey trades. And at the least, we've seen 2 examples of Adams being able to pull off a hockey trade. So that would be possible, I think, this summer for them.
803-0550, 1-888-550-2550. That's our phone number. You want to give us a ring?